South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hinnant.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hinnant.
Get you ready for the final weekend of May as we enter the month of June. The Phillies are taking on the Brewers. The Eagles unload some unnecessary money. All that and more this hour here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hinnant hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. We'll get your guys' thoughts on the Eagles unloading Bryce Huff. Phillies, well, they couldn't take out the Braves totally yesterday, but they did have a good game and series overall. We'll look ahead to the weekend. No Bryce Harper today, by the way. The good news is he was fielding, but the report is he is still super sore, to which I would say, well, if you got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball on your upper arm, you'd probably be really sore too. So I'm not going to act like I am not going to act like that. I'm too surprised by that. But we will start out with the Bryce Huff news. Bryce Huff is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. And as Mike Gill pointed out earlier on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN, this is not a surprise to me or him at all. I think what is surprising is how it all went down, the mechanics of it. And I think the mechanics of it is what fascinates me most, because it's another example of how the Eagles, they are willing to do whatever it takes to make a deal work, okay? So here's the breakdown of how they made this work. Just a bit of a summary for everybody out there, and then we'll get to what it means for the Eagles going into the next season. So what the Eagles did is there was a almost $16 million fully guaranteed option in Bryce Huff's original contract. They declined it. And what they did was they took that almost $16 million and turned it into a cash bonus that doesn't count against salary cap. And they are now trading Bryce Huff to San Francisco, who is now responsible for almost $8 million. Overall, the Eagles save almost $8 million in cash. They create $15 million in cap space. And now they make the particulars of Bryce Huff's final 2 years of his contract San Francisco's problem. But in the end, they had to pay $9.05 million to send to send Bryce Huff away. And it's just another example of how Philadelphia has done an incredible job at rectifying mistakes over the years. Remember, it didn't take them long to move on from Jalen Reagor. It didn't take Philadelphia long to move on from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Okay, they didn't hang on to these guys for 5, 6, 7 years, keep giving them contracts. You could argue the only guy they probably kept for too long in recent years was Nelson Aguilar. But that was probably more of a fan outcry than a literal on the field it wasn't productive issue. As soon as Carson Wentz became expendable, they got rid of him. As soon as they found a destination to send Reagor to, they got rid of him. And now they're doing the same thing with for Bryce Huff. I keep saying Josh Huff. Josh Huff was the last Eagle to actually have off-the-field legal problems. And that was 2016. Remember, he got pulled over on the bridge. That was a fun day. I remember that day here on 97.3 ESPN. But anyway, so now that you move on from Huff, first of all, you're saving money. You're saving salary cap space. Win-win. What does it mean for the Eagles roster? Well, number one, it takes a guy off the team who could potentially take reps away from Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, Azeez Ojulari, and Josh Uche. Because right now, those are your big four edge rushers. My expectation still is I think your starting edge rushers next year are going to be Nolan Smith and Ojulari. I think Ojulari is going to show himself to be much more valuable than people realize. I think that Ojulari is going to be a guy who's going to put up some really big numbers in a Vic Fangio defense. And because you're not asking Ojulari to play every down of every game, and you can rotate him with a Jalix Hunt or a Josh Uche. I'm assuming it would be Jalix Hunt, personally. But because of that, now you're not going to have to worry about, does Bryce Huff need reps? Does Bryce Huff need practice time? Does he need game time? Not at all. You got your big four. The other curious point of reference is I mentioned the $15 million cap savings. Well, you know whose salary cap hit is around $15 million as well? The Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. Is this a sign that Philadelphia, now that we have a post-June 1st opportunity? Remember, I told you guys right here on 97.3 ESPN before, Josh Hennig hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. We were also on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle and live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. I told you guys that June 1st was going to be interesting because the Brandon Graham a roster hold opens up. Now, in the past, we asked the question, is that where we might see Justin Simmons get slid into that roster slot? Well, now we got to ask the question, is it maybe instead Trey Hendrickson? Because as we know, Trey Hendrickson is a guy who would check some boxes for Philadelphia. Number one, Trey Hendrickson is the kind of player who makes a lot of sense for Philadelphia on the field. Multi-dimensional edge rusher. He can play the run. He can play the pass. He can be a three-down player. Number two, he is a great locker room guy. We know Howie Roseman, the Eagles, aggressively and heavily value quality human beings in the locker room. And number three, he does not want to be the highest paid defensive end in football. He wants around $30 million, which is not the highest or even the second highest paid guy in football for the edge rushers. So I look at Trey Hendrickson now after June 1st as an option because when you look at his contract, you realize that Trey Hendrickson will save the Bengals money if the Bengals wait until after June 1st. After June 1st, the Bengals will save $16 million. His salary cap number, Trey Hendrickson, right now is 18.6. Well, you're just getting added by Philadelphia $15 million to your current salary cap. Well, it sounds like you could fit in that Trey Hendrickson final year of his contract. And if you are fitting in that final year of his contract, why not do it? Now, look, I'm not saying they're going to do this. I'm not saying they should do it. But I'm just saying it's an option to consider. No offense to Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, or Josh Uche, but to me, if I have a chance to add one of the best pass rushers of football to a team that lost Josh Sweat in free agency, I'm strongly considering it. And I'm sure Philadelphia could find a creative way, if they wanted to bring in Justin Simmons, to add him to this team and acquire Trey Hendrickson. Philadelphia, though, is already eating Bryce Huff money. How much more money does Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles organization want to pay out? They've been dishing out a lot of cash this offseason. Are they willing to dish out more cash, or are they happy and content with the team as currently constructed? A lot of interesting questions to figure out for Philadelphia. But again, today is May 30th. The Bryce Huff deal does not become official until after June 1st. So if we were to see a Trey Hendrickson traded for a Justin Simmons signed, it would be probably June 2nd or later. And on top of all of this, I will remind you, when is Eagles' mandatory minicamp? June 10th. According to my math, that means you have about 12 days to get all of this figured out. You, right now, are in voluntary OTAs. Today, the Eagles were in the facility. Their next couple of days of voluntary is June 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. The mandatory camp is June 10th. So that's the timeline we're talking about. So you have until June 10th, in theory, to get this all figured out. Get it all situated. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Josh Hennick hanging out with you as well on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennick. Coming up next, talk more football. Andy McNamara is back with his perspective on the Eagles this point in the offseason. Plus, we'll get his reaction to, we talked about it recently, what did Saquon Barkley say? The 2024 Eagles were one of the 5 greatest teams in NFL history. Does Andy McNamara agree? Do you guys agree? We'll get into all that and more coming up next. Also, a little bit later this hour, Phillies weekend with the Brewers. No Bryce Harper tonight. I'll tell you a little bit later this hour why I don't think you will see Bryce Harper at all this weekend. All that and more so to come. Josh Hennick hanging out with you on 97.3 ESPN.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Tuckahoe Inn in Marmora for just $25.
This great deal is on sale now at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
May I help you?
I just wanted to request a late checkout, please.
Of course. That's $30 per hour for up to 4 hours.
Huh. Okay, but if you can offer a late checkout, then that probably means no one is staying in that room. So if it's empty, maybe I can just stay a few extra hours.
Oh, aren't you adorable?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
The Home Depot has fast, free delivery on the perfect gift to help Dad do more this Father's Day. Because Dad is more than just a dad. He's groundskeeper of the yard, the perfecter of the patio, and the cleaner of the clippings. Power Dad's doing with Ryobi cordless outdoor power tools from the Home Depot. Like the Ryobi 40-volt string trimmer kit for $159. For everything Dad is, find the perfect gift at the Home Depot. Subject to availability, see homedepot.com/delivery for more details.
Business owners everywhere are raving about ZipRecruiter's new feature, Zip Intro, which does the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates to meet with you as soon as the next day. So we decided to call up some of these employers and hear their stories. Today, we're on the phone with Pilates studio owner Crystal M. Harris. Crystal, how has Zip Intro helped you hire?
Well, I was opening a Pilates studio in McDonough, Georgia, and I needed to staff up quickly. Zip Intro did the work for me. It helped me find enthusiastic candidates who matched my qualifications perfectly.
That's great.
Yeah, I had my Zip Intro session on Tuesday, did all the interviews by Thursday, sent out the offers on Friday, and they started on Monday. Because Zip Intro did most of the work, I saved so much time.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, you can try Zip Intro for free right now at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow.
It happens more than you think. A customer wants, needs the goods and services your business offers. No matter how hard they try, they can't find you, but they find your competitor right there at the top of the results page.
And even if they do find your website, when they click, it's like a ghost town.
Hello?
Outdated, not compelling, and perhaps worse, it has information that's not accurate.
Y2K? But how do you fix that? At Town Square Interactive, we have the tools to help you maximize your online presence. Just go to mylocalcustomers.com and start by getting a free local customer analysis.
This online tool will show you just how many customers in your area you could be reaching. To get in front of those customers, we will build a premium website for your business.
One that shows up well in web searches and converts website clicks into phone calls, appointments, and foot traffic.
It's simple, it's fast, and it's affordable. Go to mylocalcustomers.com and get started by getting your free local customer analysis today.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles and 49ers reportedly working on a trade that would send defensive end Bryce Huff to San Francisco for a mid-round pick. This cannot be processed until after June 1st. Huff would reunite with Robert Saleh, who's the 49ers defensive coordinator and was also the head coach when Huff was with the New York Jets. The Eagles did restructure his contract. They would take on $9 million of his $17 million salary for next season if this deal is completed. The Phillies hosting Milwaukee tonight at Citizens Bank Park. Taijuan Walker getting the start for the Phillies at 2-3 on the year, an ERA of 2.97. DL Hall starting for Milwaukee. He is 1-0. Philadelphia split a doubleheader against the Braves Thursday, winning Game 1 5-4 and losing Game 2 9-3. NBA, the Indiana Pacers hosting the New York Knicks in Game 6 Saturday of the Eastern Conference Finals. Knicks stayed alive with the Game 5 win Thursday. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
I thought people like me didn't get addicted to drugs. That's like saying people like me don't get sick. Just like anyone can get sick, anyone can struggle with addiction. And when you're struggling, there's no shame in getting help. I'm over the shame. I know who I am, and I'm in recovery for me.
Call 844-REACH-NJ. Talk to a counselor for confidential addiction help and see if you're eligible for no-cost treatment. 844-REACH-NJ from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
Good afternoon. With your South Jersey weather forecast, I'm Joe Kelly. Some more pesky scattered showers and thunderstorms early this evening. Then maybe another occasional shower or two the rest of the night, a low temperature of 58. Tomorrow looks cloudy with, yes, an on and off shower possible, especially in the afternoon. Tomorrow's high 71. As of right now, Sunday looks like the best of the bunch. We're looking at mostly sunny sky on Sunday with a high temperature of 70. Enjoy your weekend with your South Jersey weather forecast. I'm Joe Kelly.
Relay for Life of Atlantic County is a chance to celebrate cancer survivors and caregivers, remembered loved ones, and fight back against every cancer as we join together for every life. Funds raised support the American Cancer Society mission of ending cancer as we know it for everyone. That means funding cancer research breakthroughs that can help save lives and providing free patient and caregiver support. Visit relayforlife.org/Atlantic County NJ and join us on May 31st at 1 p.m. at the Police Activities League in Egg Harbor Township.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll check back in on the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And as always, we're live on my YouTube channel where you can see this man, Andy McNamara from the Sick Podcast, is back here on 97.3 ESPN. And Andy, you gotta love the Eagles obliging us with some news today. Not the biggest news in the world, but you know, it's like, oh, Andy's going on Josh's show. We gotta do something for the weekend.
Right. Exactly. Hey, it's the type of off-season fodder and conversation that we need. And thank you to Saquon Barkley and the Eagles for obliging.
Right, exactly. Saquon added in, but today, you know, before we get to that, you know, not that we really care that Bryce Huff is getting traded. Like, that's not really the news, Andy. It's what does it mean for Philadelphia? And I put out there, it's very convenient at $15 million savings. Well, Trey Hendrickson's cap hold is $18 million. It would be a $16 million savings for the Bengals. So is this maybe a precursor for your AFC North to say bye-bye to Trey Hendrickson and him go to Philadelphia?
Boy, well, they were rumored, factual or not, to be interested in Myles Garrett when that trade request came up. So it seems like there might be some fire where the smoke was for Philly wanting to add an elite pass rusher. And Hendrickson's that, right? So if that money's freed up, it really then depends on what is Howie Roseman willing to give to Cincinnati, because for Cincinnati, this can be a boon, right? And the thing is, too, for the Bengals, their weakness was defense last year. They improved it, but if you get rid of Hendrickson, you're back to defense being an issue when your Super Bowl window is open. So unless they are blown away by something, I'd still be surprised if Hendrickson gets moved and they don't figure something out. Because if they don't, that's pretty stupid by Cincinnati.
Well, what's ridiculous to me, Andy, is that you dished out all this money to two wide receivers and you ignored the guy who was the only good defensive player on your team last year.
Ridiculous.
So it's like, it would make sense for the Bengals to trade him because that's who they are. They're not that smart, you know?
No,
I mean,
and they're notoriously cheap, but then they weren't cheap with the receiver. And this is what was weird to me. Okay, you keep Jamar Chase. I get it. The guy's elite. T. Higgins, very good receiver. But Josh, you're telling me I couldn't draft somebody that at least could approach T. Higgins? And you got Yasevich coming up as well as the third guy. Like, there were spots where you didn't have to pay T. Higgins that money. He's not worth that on that team where you have a guy that you could pop up and draft somebody else in a draft that had a lot of really good number twos. It would have been cheaper, it would have fit, and you could have taken that cash and satisfied Trey Hendrickson. So it is bizarre.
It's very bizarre. And again, I am not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just thinking out loud. You trade Bryce Huff. You basically give him $9 million to go away. You know, you're saving a $15 million salary cap. I'm just saying, you know, what else you could use that money for, you know? And because, you know, the salary cap, it's not like the NBA where you just carry it on you can carry it from year to year to year.
Right.
If you do contracts a certain way, the salary cap in the NFL just goes up every year because they're just, you know, oozing money. So, you know, I'm not worried about paying Jalen Carter down the road. He's going to get paid, okay? What I'm worried about is you lost how many guys? Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, C.J. Garner-Johnson. And my original assumption, Andy, was, well, after June 1st, the Brandon Graham hold comes off the books. maybe that's when you bring in Justin Simmons. Now I'm looking at this Bryce Huff move and being like, maybe it's Trey Hendrickson, because as you mentioned, Andy, there was a lot of smoke around the Myles Garrett stuff. And Hendrickson checks all the boxes. Veteran pass rusher, great locker room guy, doesn't want to be highest paid player in his position, right? So it's like,
and still young. We're not talking about a dinosaur.
30 years old. 30 years old. Yeah.
That's fine. That's right on the cusp. We're not talking about a 36-year-old who's grasping. This is a guy in his prime now.
And Andy, my thing is also, I'm not asking him to come to Philadelphia and sign a 5-year deal. You could sign him for a 2-year deal and be like, hey, we're going to pay you now, and then you can go at free agency again when you're 32.
Right. Pay it. Give him the money he wants. Like you said, the salary cap situation just keeps going up in the NFL. That's not going to be a problem. You give him the chunk, give him some nice guarantees. Maybe it's 2 and, one of those 3-year options. It's a 3-year deal, but it's really 2. And the NFL is so funny, right? You hear these like 5-year, $200 million contract. It's like, how much is guaranteed? $50 million. Oh, so it's a $50 million contract. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not $200 million. Unless you're a quarterback, you're never getting that money. That's what's so wild to me. If you're not a quarterback, you are never receiving that extra money ever. It's not happening. It's so funny.
That's why I made the joke earlier. I was like, you originally signed Bryce Huff to a 3-year, $51 million deal. And somewhere the Eagles were like, we were never going to give you $51 million. That's the number we signed you to.
Yeah, that's the number that was on the paper, but we have plenty of outs, plenty of ways to not pay you that. No, it's all about the guarantee money. So you work something with that. And really for Hendrickson, I think it is all about the money, because if it was about winning, you're in a Cincinnati spot where you could be Cincinnati, if Joe Burrow's healthy, can be a Super Bowl contender still. So it's all about the money. It's not about the Super Bowl directly. So, figure out how he's a smart guy, as we know. Figure out a way, get the guy the number he wants. And then it just depends if the Bengals are willing to play ball.
Andy McNamara joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, he is the host of the Sick podcast. Of course, you can follow him on the Twitter platform at AndyMC81. Of course, with what's coming up, Belmont, we got to follow you on My Real Birds as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. What's that? That's next weekend, right?
Next weekend, 3 weeks after the Preakness. Yeah. So the final leg of the Triple Crown, going to be a rivalry showdown. Sovereignty, who won the Derby, versus Journalism, who won the Preakness, and Sovereignty edged out Journalism in that Derby. So it's a nice little horse rivalry coming up.
By the way, I don't get too far off the topic, but I will say with that race, I'm curious of one thing. The forecast is not supposed to be great that weekend for the weather.
Again.
So does that favor Sovereignty because he's already won on the messy track? Or is this a situation where you say he's been sitting for so long, it's all even Stevens? I think that's going to be a great conversation for you guys over at My Railbird that week.
For sure. And I think it does benefit Sovereignty definitely because he has one. And Josh, the thing is, that extra time off is a bonus, because with thoroughbreds now, you're racing is most of these horses don't race for a month. Like if you're good, if you're a contender, it's minimum a month. Typically they want 4 weeks rest in general. So for Journalism to go Derby, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I wonder how much he has left. Whereas Sovereignty has been able to chill for 5 and be fine. So it's not as long as you might think. Like a month is pretty much a sweet spot.
Yeah, I will say, because we got to get back to the football, but I will say, they got to change this schedule. They got to make it so that I understand the Derbies, that first Saturday. I get it. It's a tradition, blah, blah, blah. But you can't have the next race 2 weeks after. No. It's got to be 3 or 4. I understand they don't want to line up a Memorial Day weekend, okay? I totally get that. I understand that that's been a common theme of the racing community for a long time. But just make it tomorrow. You could have had the Preakness tomorrow.
Yep.
And then you could have the final race 3 weeks after that. So that way you're at least spacing out a little more.
Yeah. If you gave it the 1 extra week, so it was 3 and 3. And even if it's on Memorial Day, there are huge races on the Monday. Put it on the Monday. Right? There's huge. There's tons of
but you got it. But see, that's the Canadian you. You're overlooking the fact that, in America, Memorial Day weekend is like the unofficial start of summer. Like people literally take off Thursday and they're off like Thursday through Monday in the United States. Like, people are weird about that weekend, man. It's like there's a reason why half the Eagles were in South Jersey that weekend partying it up. Like, it's weird down here, man.
Hey, I dig it. I like it. But you're right, though. If you can spread it out, because then it also puts the storyline back on. The Belmont's going to be great. But, boy, it'd be a whole lot more interesting if you had a Triple Crown.
Right.
And the frustrating part is, too, then we'll get back to football, of course. But for sovereignty, it's like what drives me nuts is you got the horse, and the horse was fine. They're like, nah, we're going to wait. It's like, but you literally can only race this once. You can only be for 3-year-olds. So if you don't do it, you never do. Give it a chance. That's what drives me crazy. So I agree. You spread it out. Give the option to go. It's much more exciting if at least you have the conversation and storyline. Better for the sport.
By the way, your name came up the other day because you are Canadian. I was talking with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN because I mentioned, well, Andy's my favorite Canadian. You and I have talked about how LeBlanc Blue is better in Canada than it is in America.
Well, it technically better. I'll put in quotations. Unless they're a sponsor for the station, then I won't bury them. But
not a sponsor, but still.
Okay, good. It's a good. Let me put it this way: it's a good beer if you're in university and looking for a cheap one. It's better in Canada that way. But if you're like our, more distinguished selves, gentlemen, if you will, you ain't touching Labatt Blue.
Well, the choice was either Molson or Blue. That was, and I said Blue because I think it's there's a better consistency to it.
I agree. I agree. If you guys get a chance for Canadian beer, go the craft route. A Steam Whistle, maybe a Alexander Keith's, something like that.
Hey, listen, man. I've told you before. There's a plethora of craft breweries down here in South Jersey. So I'm all about that, man.
Okay. You know what? We need to do a collab here where like I come down and go to like an Eagles game and we go to like a horse race too. And we do like a weekend, a double weekend. Have it like, hey, you go to the track, you go to the game. I can go work and try some craft beer. There's a sponsor in there.
Sounds like a busy weekend. That's what it's.
There's sponsors in there. Let's go. Come on.
There's sponsors in there. Let's get it back to the football here because I didn't get a chance to have you on sooner about this. So just to remind the audience, so before the Eagles went and partied on Memorial Day weekend and then had OTAs this week, Saquon Barkley was on the Exciting Mikes podcast. So for those who forget, it's the Two Exciting Whites. It's Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship. They host a podcast together, and they had Saquon on there. Saquon, unprompted, puts out there, I've been telling my buddies this 2024 Eagles, one of the 5 greatest teams in NFL history.
Oh, boy.
And now, I will say, he didn't say it was the best. He didn't unacknowledge other teams because he mentioned in the conversation, well, you got the 72 Dolphins, you have the 85 Bears, He brought up the 2000 Ravens, and then he said, one of those Chiefs or Patriots teams has to be in the conversation. So he wasn't ignoring everybody else, but it is a pretty lofty thing of anyone to say any team is one of the 5 greatest teams of all time. So, Andy McNamara, your reaction is what?
I love the chutzpah of Saquon Barkley. And it's fine now because it can't be used as fuel. At first I was like, uh-oh. But there's no fuel for other teams this year because it was last year's team. If he was saying that during the season last year, problem. But, okay, let's look at it. So we mentioned, obviously, the 72 Dolphins undefeated the Bears. You got to look, I think, at the 2007 Patriots, but you didn't win the championship.
Didn't win the championship.
What about the 49ers teams, right? 84, 89, Joe Montana. Like, ooh, boy, you mix those in. I'm looking at a list. They have the 78 Steelers. I'm not counting that. No dice for me. But you work in those other teams. So if we were to say top 10, I think you could get me on board. I think you could get me on board with the top 10. But it also depends, Josh. If you go all time, it's impossible to try to compare this team to the 1962 Green Bay Packers. Hell, it's impossible to compare them to the Dolphins, right? Or the early 50s teams. Like, how far do you go back? Because the games are so different, they're not comparable now. So it's almost like you got to go eras, I think. right? Or decades even, and do it that way. Because all time, like, all right, would this Eagles team beat the crap out of the 72 Dolphins? Probably, because the 72 Dolphins were smoking darts and taking aspirin in the locker room at halftime, right? Come on. So yeah, they probably would. But if everything was equal, would they? Probably not.
Well, here's my thing. So I had a buddy of mine bring this up, and I wanted to present it to you. Do we draw the line at the salary cap era as like the before and after? Because we've only talked about in football history Super Bowl era, right? Since 67, 68.
Right.
But the salary cap really changed a lot of things in the NFL. So like now what we're saying is we're eliminating the 70s and the 80s altogether. Now we're saying if it's just the 2000 Ravens and it's just, let's say it's the 2021 Chiefs, 2022, the one that had the great defensive year.
Yeah.
If you want to say it's only the Patriots, the second run that had like Gronk and Edelman and all those guys. If you want to say it's only, just to throw it out there, the Legion of Boom Seahawks, you want to throw them in the conversation.
Right.
If you want to say it's only those teams you're comparing the Eagles to, that does change, the list a bit, right?
Oh, 100%. I think you have to, and maybe even more so than that, because we also, not just the salary cap, we also have to think of how the rules have changed. You go back to the 72 or 85 Bears. Josh, you've seen NFL films. Guys are rapping there, have a cast on. Literally, that's where clothesline came from in wrestling. Literally smashing the guys right in the face. No problem. Right? These 80s quarterbacks, good. Bernie Kosar, Brown's great. He had his jaw broken so many times, right? And no penalty. So I think also we have to take in, when did the rules really become passer and quarterback friendly, and work that in? Because that's
90s.
Totally different.
It's 90s.
Maybe even a bit later, like as far as like extreme, right?
Well, the reason I say 90s is because the 90s, Warren Moon, Jim Kelly, Brett Favre, like you had those chuckers, Steve Young. So like that was the first time people were like consistently, like Marino, Dan Fouts, they were anomalies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Their time. Yeah.
So whereas like in the 90s, like you go back and look at those guys' stats, like Drew Bledsoe, like that was the first time when you were like, whoa, we're doing this consistently. It's not just one or two guys.
Right, people lighting it up. Yeah. So maybe that's the spot, but like, yeah, it's almost like decade, I think, right? Like you have to get, because the rules even got even more so. Like now we know you blink at the quarterback, it's even right, it's even crazier. So where do you draw the line with it? I think this last year's Eagles team was so sensational and special. Certainly, if we look at it from this decade, are they even the best team of this decade compared to the Chiefs?
Well, I think then the question I would ask to that question is, how much do you value the defense? Like because the Eagles defense allowed 17 points a game this past year.
Right.
Well, the best Chiefs team of the decade also allowed 17 points a game. So are we neutralizing that and then going to the offense? And then how are we grading the offense? Because I think most people would agree, even Eagle fans, that Mahomes is the best quarterback in football, right? And then are we looking at the offensive lines? The Eagles' offensive line is obviously better than the Chiefs.
Right.
Chiefs get the better tight end, Kelsey. Eagles get the better wide receiver duo, Brown and Smith. So then Saquon is better than anyone who's ever played for the Chiefs in the last, 20 years, since Priest Holmes.
Yeah, at running back. Like they've had good running game execution, but not a guy. Like maybe the year Kareem Hunt won the rushing title, which I think was like 2017?
2018, 2017,
like
yeah.
But that's not the same level. He wasn't that this time around.
No.
So you know what? To answer that question, then between the two, maybe the Eagles do have the edge, right?
I mean, the Eagles got the 2,000-yard rusher, and the Chiefs don't.
Yeah, and
I hate to say that simply.
And the better receivers. I think that's still going into this season. That's still a blind spot to a point for the Chiefs, where they just get guys and they just shoot themselves in the foot. They just get in criminal trouble or whatever, right? Like, it's still an issue. Quick side note, I'm still very surprised they did not take a tight end hire. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for them to have a beautiful transition situation with Travis Kelce. He's this year and done, and he's on the decline. If you got one of those top tight ends, you could have paired them up and you had your succession plan right there. I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Well, I think there's two things there. One, they seem to really like Noah Gray. Really like Noah Gray.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe internally they're trying to groom him to be the guy, kind of like how, but what was his name? Jake Ferguson took over when Jason Witten finally retired for the 20th time. Is it maybe something like that? The other thing is, Travis admitted on his podcast that if they would have won the 3-peat, he was going to retire then.
Oh, so yeah.
So what's interesting, he said, is that now that we lost, he says, now I'm recommitted. He's now I'm refocused. Apparently he's training even harder this offseason. So, for you guys, fantasy football out there, you might want to keep on Travis Kelce as maybe a sleeper in the mid to later rounds for tight end, because if Kelsey's going to come in, quote unquote, best shape of my life kind of thing, whereas the last 2 years, he's kind of admitted, I've been working my way into shape, in camp. Now if he comes into camp and, because, if you've noticed, not as much him and Taylor are going out in public on social media, they're keeping it quiet.
Hopefully they're fine.
No, they're fine. But apparently, they got a house in Florida. It's a gated community. People can't see them in public as much anymore. So it's now Travis isn't living his life on social media. Now he's living his life in private. And now it's Jim Taylor. I'm just saying.
Not a bad life, Trav. Not a bad life. Not a bad routine. Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's a good point, because Travis Kelce's fantasy value has just nosedived, rightfully so. Because it's now more real life effective, right? It was, all right, he can, mail it into the playoffs and then kick it up. So to your point, maybe that's a spot, because really, if you look at it real quick at the Chiefs fantasy side, Xavier Worthy, fun player. Can you rely on him every week for fantasy? No. Hollywood Brown? No. Jalen Royals, the rookie? No. Pacheco, Kareem Hunt will that's RB2. Gosh, if you look at the Chiefs, and I could argue you don't want Patrick Mahomes on your fantasy team based for fantasy points, because the last couple of years, fantasy-wise, he's been average at best. Josh, I could say truly looking at this, there might not be a Chiefs player I want as my number one in any fantasy category this year. That's crazy. Look at the roster. Who are you taking? Maybe the defense? Maybe.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Maybe the
definitely
defense
for
is
sure.
the best.
Well, let me ask you this before I let you go, because we mentioned about Travis Kelce. So now Dallas Goedert is going to a final year of his contract. He'll be a free agent next year. He says he's excited about the year. He's looking forward to it. He sounds like a guy this week, Andy, that he wants to be an Eagle, but he's also aware that if he plays well, he might be able to get good money elsewhere. So for fantasy football, which do you value more? The guy in the contract year, because of the history of injuries, or the guy who's going to come up in the best shape of his life, who's a future Hall of Famer?
Ooh, boy. Both with great quarterbacks, both with offense that can feature them, right? I'd say I would lean, and the injury stuff does spook me because it's a thing, right? I would be leaning more towards Dallas Goedert right now. Younger, 30 years old, contract year, like you said. It's just the health. But we see all the time, contract year, yeah, okay, now he plays 16 of 17, right? And gets there. So there's extra motivation, and I would lean Dallas Goedert, right? If you're telling me right now about it, I would say Dallas Goedert.
All right. Fair. Very fair.
Yeah, in edge, just because best shape of his life, that's fine. But at his age and the tilt down we've seen from Kelce, for fantasy, I don't think I can rely on him a whole year. And I want a little bit more consistency. And maybe what I do is I take a Dallas Goedert with the upside and I swing back and I take a Harold Fannin Jr. from the Browns or someone who's going to pop, or David Njoku or something. Somebody who is going to be consistent, maybe not the ceiling, but who can fill in nicely and still get me quality fantasy points if Goddard goes down.
Yeah, I just partly asked the question because, like, you and I talked about last year throughout the season, like, that was probably the worst year for fantasy tight ends in, like, such a long time. And, like, there's a part of you that's looking around and you're almost like, because back in the day, like, you would get a tight end, like, the 3rd or 4th round, and you were like, all right, I'm rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting there in, like, the 6th and 7th rounds and you're questioning your life when you look at the tight end position.
Yeah, definitely. And so now my recommendation, it has been for years and even more so, is double up on your tight end. Double up. Some people just draft one. Not me, man. I like getting me 2. Just from the situation that I played out. Somebody gets hurt. Player has a down year, whatever. I got an option, and it's covering me off for buys because especially a tight end, Josh, you hit the bye week, the waiver wire, and there's nothing. It is a wasteland. Right. So you might as well try to double up, get yourself that. Think of it this way. Do I want a second tight end that can cover my buy and potentially contribute throughout the year, or do I want a 5th wide receiver who's not going to see my field? Right? Yeah. That's what you do.
Before we let you go, I do have a question from a listener.
Oh, what do we got?
Mike in Northfield says, can you ask Andy about his hat? I want to get one. That's Mike in Northfield.
Mike in Well, this is, first of all, thank you. This is the Railbirds hat. This is the horse racing hat, the company we're working for there. Hey, you know what? Send Josh your details. We'll send you one down. I'll mail you one down. You want a Railbirds hat, buddy? I'll get it for you. Follow us on social at MyRailbirds. We'll hook you up. Nice little hat.
Yeah, Mike in Northfield. He wants one.
Mike in Northfield, you got it, buddy. Send your details to Josh. We'll get it down for you. No problem.
At AndyMC81 on the TwitterX platform, at AndyMC Sports on Instagram.
Yes, you got it. Yep.
Yep, and then, of course, My Railbirds, the Sick Podcast. Like, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. Am I forgetting anything here?
No, I think you got it, buddy. I think you got all of it. Yeah, follow along. Doing lots of fun stuff on the horse racing side. Of course, all the football stuff is as well, which is always fun.
Great stuff, Andy. Appreciate you jumping on, my friend. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, you too, buddy. See ya.
Josh Hennick back here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Look at that, Mike and North. But asking you shall receive. It's the old thing in life. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you ask, at least you know you tried. It's the great advice of all time. If you ask the question, you might get it. Mike in Northfield's going to get a hat. All because he was willing to ask the question. Good stuff there. Andy McNamara joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Back to Tech Sport on the other side. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Get ready for the ultimate thrill when Atlantic City hosts War at the Shore, sponsored by North Beach AC, Sunday, June 8th. Witness the adrenaline-pumping, high-powered boats race through the Atlantic Ocean from any of the North Beach locations. Feel the roar of the engines, the splash of the waves, and the excitement in the air. Sunday, June 8th, for War at the Shore, sponsored by North Beach AC. For more information, visit AtlanticCityNorthBeach.com.
At Progressive, we understand the bond you have with your boat. It's why people name theirs.
I named my boat Sure Don't. Get it? The other day when my friend said, "Hey Larry, you want to head back in? It looks like it might rain." I said, "Sure don't." I guess they didn't get it because they didn't laugh.
Whatever you call your boat, protect it by insuring it with Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
This Father's Day, help Dad be all he can be with a gift from the Home Depot. Because he's not just Dad, he's the handyman of the house, the plumber in a pinch, and the emergency mechanic. Upgrade his gear this Father's Day with the Husky Mechanics 270-piece tool set from the Home Depot. Now on special buy for $119, a $695 value. For every kind of dad, find the perfect gift this Father's Day at the Home Depot.
They say no two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app with over 16 million subscriptions sold? Well, we thought of you. All of you. Take Sierra. She's an artist and absolutely a visual learner. She's doing a deep dive into our Babbel wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Malcolm is very much a type A, say it to my face, listening learner. So he checks with Babbel's speech recognition to make sure that accent.
Precio.
Keith's a real people person and a curious learner, so he loves Babbel's Culture Bites, full of insights and native knowledge about the language he's learning. Like what's served for Christmas dinner in Germany.
Glühwein, Weihnachtsgans und Christmasstollen.
Wherever you are, however you learn, Babbel is the best choice to break any language barrier. Save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription when you sign up at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Everyone has a fave Wendy's Frosty flavor. And when you're choosing from chocolate or vanilla, it's not that hard. But now, there's all new Frosty Swirls and Frosty Fusions. So try picking your fave from... Oreo Brownie Fusion, Pop-Tarts Strawberry Fusion, Strawberry Swirl, Brownie Batter Swirl, Caramel Swirl, and Caramel Crunch Fusion. Not so easy now, huh? For a fresh way to Frosty, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Oreo is a trademark of Mondelez International Group. Pop-Tarts is a trademark of Kellogg North America Co., LLC, used with permission.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RADIO to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code RADIO for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code RADIO for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
You need parts? We got parts. Product availability? Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. Get one free set of brake pads when you buy 2 brake rotors. Upgrade to Brake Best Select brake pads for $10 more, or upgrade to Brake Best Select Pro or Import Direct pads for just $20. Offer in-store only. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local restaurants.
Tuckahoe Inn Restaurant, come join the good times. Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall, great beer, killer eats, unmatched vibes. Island Grill Restaurant, serving fresh, delicious seafood favorites in Ocean City for 30 years.
Thank you for supporting these great local restaurants.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Well, the Phillies are having a very chaotic first inning because they had runners on first and third. The Brewers stole second base, but Stott never tagged the guy out, looked the runner back to third base. So then they had a chopper, and when they only could throw it to first base because of where the ball landed. So now the Brewers lead 1-0 with 2 outs on frankly a chaotic set of plays where they actually could have been out of the inning if Stott would have just stood his ground, hit the tag, then turned and fired home. But now it's 1-0. And man, Taijuan Walker is having a rough day at the office. He is having all kinds of control issues. I don't know if his adrenaline is too high. I don't know if his mind is not right, but something is off with this guy right now. He does not look like he has it at all. And there's a base hit, another run score. So you could have been out of the inning, but instead, Bryson Stott makes the wrong decision, and now it's 2-0. And, man, Taijuan Walker looks like he is defeated. He looks deflated, man. This is not going to – this might be a Phillies loss. I hate even to put it out there. Oh, my goodness. And now we go back to the question. Should you have called up Mick Abel? Should Taijuan Walker be in the bullpen? Here's Rhys Hoskins getting a nice ovation from the Philly fans. I mean, this is turning out to be messy. Oh, my goodness. Philly's already down 2-0. What a mess. A couple things before we get out of here. Number one, I mentioned I would hit on as well the Phillies. You know, one of the things the Phillies, I think, is getting overlooked is the fact that as we finish at the month of May, while they have the best record in the National League, they have done it in spite of a lot of things. And I do go back to, for as much as I have criticized Dave Dombrowski, I did think he brought up a very excellent point on the show podcast where he does talk about how the Phillies offense still has not really found their footing yet. Take a listen.
I don't feel like our offense has really gelled 100% by any means. And yet we're still among the league leaders in many categories. It's interesting. I just think it points to how much offense is down throughout the game. So I think for us, a lot of it, I think, just becomes an internal improvement for us.
So if we're in a situation where the Phillies offense is just not found their way yet, this could be a very fun summer. But man, right now, I'm just, this game is exhausting me. Really quick, I got some plays for you guys this weekend. All right, number one, in UFC tomorrow night, I think that fight goes the distance, and I think Erin Blanchfield wins because Barber came in half pound of weight. She had a very rough weight cut. In the WNBA, Caitlin Clark to be out 3 more games. Every game, take the other team on the spread. Tomorrow night, Paige Beckers was not available for Dallas, so take the Sky to win that game. So there's some picks for you for the weekend. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night, everybody.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, my locker room youth movement, producer Nick Earnshaw, and the intern Andrew Leeds join me in the studio. We will be spinning the giveaway wheel for great prizes to lucky listeners, so tune in to win. Brian Baldinger from the NFL Network will check in with his impressions on the Eagles at the OTAs. Hour 2, it's the Beach Patrol Report, brought to you by McCann Realtors and the OCBP Lifeguard Alumni Association. Saturday, we'll talk with the chief of the Brigantine Beach Patrol, Kip Emick. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your